The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our live webinar, which is Landing a Job U.S. or Overseas, particularly aimed at our candidates coming from Canada. My name is Darren Lockery, and I am the Associate Director of Enrollment here at Hult. I work on the Boston campus, but work with several candidates for the MBA that are from Canada. We are going to be covering different ways that candidates can seek out job opportunities overseas that are graduating from both our MBA and our master's programs. So joining us this evening, we have Nav Dutta, and Nav is actually a Toronto native. He is our Global Career Development Program Manager at Hult and graduated from Ryerson with his bachelor's and is now earning his master's. He's worked in North America, Europe, and the Middle East, so he truly is a job guru and will be able to offer a lot of insight that is specifically for Canadian applicants that are hoping to find work outside of Canada. Take it away, Nav.
Great, thank you, Darren. Good evening, everyone. I'm thrilled to be here today joining my fellow Canadians. I must admit I haven't been living in Canada for now 5 years, but I visit frequently and I miss it dearly. Hopefully you guys have just finished watching the news, perhaps CBC, CP24. Maybe you're drinking some Tim Hortons right now, eating a Tim Hortons donut or a Timbit. Hopefully that's not your dinner, but I appreciate the time I have today. I've got about an hour to spend with you guys to take you through how to find a job overseas, particularly in the US or in some of the markets in which we've seen our Canadian students and graduates go to. So before I get into the content, you'll notice if this is your first time using the GoToWebinar platform for one of these meetings, you have a control panel on your screen. And in the control panel, there is a chat function. I'd encourage, if you have any questions, to go ahead and key them into the chat box. And at some point during the presentation, myself or Darren will get to your questions. Okay, so before I begin, I'm interested to know where you guys are situated or located. If you're in Canada, what city are you from? So why don't we all test the chat box out, and why don't you type in the city in which you are currently living or residing in? Okay, I don't see any messages in the chat box just yet. I don't know if you guys are shy in telling us where you're currently living, but I'm going to assume we've got people who are Toronto natives. Maybe you're from Vancouver, Montreal. Maybe we've got some people from the East Coast representing here today. In any event, I welcome you all to the webinar, and let's take a look at how to land a job overseas. First things first, you're going to notice that I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are. So who is the career development team at Hult? What do they do? So what do our career advisors do for students? What do our corporate relations staff do to support students in their quest for employment? Take a little bit a look at who you are. So as a job seeker, as a Canadian who's looking for employment in the global marketplace, who are you? What do you come with? What are you looking for? Let's take a look at some of those variables. How can we help? So what do we do to support you? How do you plan your international career move? And then we'll get to some Q&A. So first things first, for my Toronto natives, I assure you that you're in very good hands when you come to Hult International Business School. So we have an amazing team led by Catherine Boschkoff, who is our VP of Global Career Development and Alumni Relations. Alongside Catherine, there are 3 members of the global staff. There's Stephen, myself, and Paula. So Stephen looks after alumni affairs, and Paula looks after our global executive MBA program. At the campus level, you have Walid in San Francisco, Joanne in Boston, Alex in Shanghai, and Jean in London, as well as Magda over in Dubai. And these are our directors of the Career Development and Corporate Relations team. So these are the individuals that lead, members of staff anywhere up to, Waleed has 7 over in San Francisco. These are career advisors that have, a combination of HR, operations, and an executive search experience. And these are the individuals who are assigned to each of our students as career advisors throughout the course of the student's journey at Hult. But let's not talk about us too much. Let's talk a little bit about you. One of the things I'm interested in is, why are you considering going back to school? So obviously on this webinar today, perhaps you've applied already to Hult, or you're thinking about applying to Hult. Why are you considering going back to school? So what's your motive for doing so? Again, at any time, if you want to type that into the chat, feel free to do so. I'm not going to put anyone on the spot. But what are your reasons for going back to school? Typically, when we talk to applicants and graduates, and we ask them why are they going to school or going to pursue an MBA or a master's, the idea is that they want to change something about themselves, and either this is directly related to what they do for a living. So do they want to change their industry that they work in? Do they want to change the type of job that they do? Perhaps they want to change geographically where they're working. So what country that they're working in. And of course, we've got those who are coming to do an MBA or a master's degree for the purpose of starting their own business, perhaps supporting their family's business. And some people, very rarely do I find them, some people are doing it just for general interest. I mean, in most cases, you are doing this because you want to make a change in your career. Yeah. The other questions, you might want to ask, or I would ask of candidates and graduates, is what do you want to do after graduation? And so this is an important question. It's almost like that age-old question maybe people asked you when you were in public school, grade 5 and below. What do you want to be when you grow up? So, I mean, what do you want to do after graduation? The possibilities to move to another country, or to move into another industry, or to pursue another function within the same industry or the same country definitely exist. But these are things that you want to put some thought into, because the choices that you make in the way of the electives you take at Hult, or the campus location that you choose, this is going to be contingent on where you see yourself after graduation. Where in the world do you want to work? I mean, so the idea here is we've got campuses in, from Shanghai all the way to San Francisco. We've got in between that Boston, London, and Dubai, and of course there's a rotation campus that pops up in New York City. And so where in the world do you want to work is one of those questions. I mean, some people are doing an MBA or a master's, as I said, to change where they live, and they want to work abroad, not just study abroad, but work abroad. So have you put some thought into which country or what countries you'd like to target after you graduate from an MBA or a master's? On top of that, when you think about where you want to work in the world, is your expertise in demand there, right? So this is one of those questions you have to ask yourself is there a healthy employment market for what I want to do in that country of choice? And the reason why I say that is there are some countries, for example, if you're in energy, oil and gas, that are more appropriate destinations than others, right? And so these are things that if you're coming from that industry and you want to pursue a job in that industry or continue working in that industry, you'd want to make sure that that is a healthy industry in that country of choice. But aside from demand for your expertise, you also have to ask yourself, do you have work authorization in that country? And if not, how do you go about obtaining it? So part of our discussion today is to look at the options that are available to you, and to get you to start thinking about how what is your route to that market, or that country that you might desire to work in. So the basics of career development here are such as you've got know yourself, know the market, plan and execute. We kind of narrow this the steps to career development down to kind of three simplified um, phases. And so know yourself is about self-assessment, right? It's about understanding what your strengths are, what your interests are, and what your motivators are. These are fundamental in understanding what your ideal occupation looks like, but also what your ideal work environment looks like. If you're a numbers person and you don't particularly like working, in groups and in teams, you might be better suited to be an accountant, right? And for those of you who are accountants, you could probably relate to this. But if you are a numbers person, but you like leading teams, then you might want to be like a finance controller. Yeah. And so there are ways in which to find out what your strengths, interests, and motivators are, and your career advisor at Hult deploys a number of different exercises they're very scientific in nature. Things like the strong interest inventory, which is a psychometric assessment that we offer to our students who are unsure about themselves. And if you're seasoned, you're 7+ years of experience or even more, chances are you already understand what you like, what you don't like, and what your strengths are, and what motivates you in the workplace. But if you're starting your career out, you're one of our master's candidates, perhaps you don't have a wealth of experience behind you, and you're willing to try other things, and you want to know what you might be suitable and open for. Self-assessment is one of those exercises that you want to do first before anything else. Know the market. So once you understand yourself as an individual and what interests you and what motivates you, the second thing you want to do is know what the market is offering in the way of employment demand. So again, you're not going to waste a hell of a lot of time searching for a job that is not in demand right now, or that has a oversupply of talent on hand. So you want to research that. You want to know, what does unemployment look like in those countries that you're targeting. You also want to know what the skills, knowledge that are required for your target job. You want to know what those are, and you want to know what the gap is. What skills and knowledge do you possess for this job? What skills and knowledge do you need to gain in order to successfully obtain this job? These are things that education definitely helps you with. So when you undertake the MBA or the master's program, you are exposed to obviously a number of business-related courses that might help fill the knowledge gap. You're also building skills, right? So depending on the program that you're in, the action project or the Hult Impact Challenge that you engage in at Hult, you'll start to develop some of these skills that you're needing for these jobs that you're wishing to apply for. And then knowing the market also has this idea of understanding what visa and immigration policy look like in that geographic location that you're wishing to apply to. And so the question you have to ask yourself: are you authorized to work in the country that you desire? If not, what are your options to gain work authorization? So just because you're not a citizen, or just because you weren't born in the United States, or you aren't born in the United Kingdom, doesn't mean that you can't get a job there, right? Now, there are certain factors that are going to make you more successful in finding a job abroad, and which we'll talk about. But you want to know upfront what these are, so that you can work with not only your career advisor, but work at obtaining the skills and knowledge you need to be successful in getting those positions. One thing I want to stress is our career advisors across all 5 campuses are very knowledgeable on the different visa types, particularly in the regions in which our campuses are located. And this is definitely because we've put through thousands of students whose job searches are almost always international. And so through regular one-to-one career advising, we become very aware and have become experts at advising students on visas and visa strategy. So, what type of visa should you be looking to obtain based on who you are as an individual, based on the types of companies and jobs that you're looking to apply for. So that third phase then in career development is planning and executing. So once you know yourself, once you get an understanding of what the employment market looks like, and what you need to do to get that job. The idea is to plan and execute. So this is, I don't want to say this is where students fail, because they don't fail. We help them with this, but this is the area that most people need to do the most work, which is personal branding and then creating a targeted job search plan. And what I mean by personal branding is, the idea of having an award-winning resume, ensuring that your LinkedIn profile is maximized so that you're getting noticed by employers. And again, you guys situated in Canada know, particularly in North America, LinkedIn is becoming an invaluable resource for HR and recruiters and managers, hiring managers, a tool for them to solicit but also recruit talent. The ease of search. They no longer have to necessarily post a job and wait for 2,000 to 5,000 applicants come through their email box. They can go ahead and proactively search using the advanced filters that LinkedIn provides to find talent that might be suitable for jobs. So the idea is to have a stellar LinkedIn profile, which our team here at Hult, our career advisors, work diligently with students to ensure that it's search engine optimized, if I can put it that way. And then things like elevator pitches, right? And so how do you introduce yourself at networking events? How do you portray yourself? How do you articulate your value proposition as a individual, as a job seeker, as a piece of talent that a company might wish to hire? And then a job search plan. So when I say job search plan, I'm talking about a plan that is specific about the location that you want to work in, the function that you want to perform, and the industry in which you want to work in. And not just having one plan, but having multiple plans. So having contingency plans. I'm going to show you later, what a contingency plan looks like, what a plan A is, a plan B, and perhaps even a plan C. But without a plan, your job search tends to get scattered. We call it the shotgun approach to job hunting, where you just kind of fire bullets at anything without having a target or an aim. What ends up happening, and what we've seen from experience, is students who take that approach end up wasting a lot of valuable time, whereas if they had been more focused and specific about the activities that um, they perform while they're looking for their job, um, you'll see that the one that is more focused finds their, I don't want to say their dream job, but their target job earlier than others. And we have data that shows that. So let's take a look at launching a career abroad. I like to say Canadians are like Visa, we're accepted everywhere. And why? Because we're such nice people, right? And if you think about the reputations Canadians have abroad, we're often seen as peacekeepers. We're often seen as people who are accepting of others. We're generally nice people. Well, most of us. I think this guy over here, someone needs to tell him that it is indeed too late to say sorry. But acceptance of Canadians and acceptance of us culturally is one thing. One of the things that you want to look at is, where is the job growth internationally for business grad majors? And so let's look at that. Let's look at the global employment marketplace. If you haven't already done so, topmba.com is a great resource for those who are looking to take up study, either an MBA or a master's degree, any business related degree. I would encourage you to go look at topmba.com. Every year they publish a report called the Jobs and Salary Trends. So this data here comes from the 2015-2016 report. And what you're seeing on the screen right now is what they forecasted in the way of job growth for business grad majors in 2014 and 2015, what it actually turned out to be in the way of growth, and what the forecast is for the next year. One of the things that you can see from this chart that is there was considerable growth in 2015, particularly in Asia Pacific, North America, and Western Europe. And the forecast for 2016 shows continued growth in those regions, in addition to Eastern Europe and Latin America. And so when you're thinking now about, where am I going to study? So for example, if you're thinking about which campus location am I going to study in, if you're thinking about working in the United States after graduation. And one of those decisions that you have to make is, should I start there? Should I start in September, either on a Boston or San Francisco campus? Ideally, you would want to. The data shows the longer a student spends in a given region, the more contacts they make, the more networking opportunities they're exposed to, and so the more job leads that they have at their fingertips. Yeah. So here we can see that there's some strong regions for growth in 2016: Asia Pacific, Eastern Europe, Latin America, and North America. If we drill down and look at growth by country, you'll see that the United States is number one. And this is good news for Americans, but good news for everybody, because the Great Recession took quite the toll on the U.S. economy, and it's bounced. I was going to say it started to bounce back, but it is bouncing back better than people had expected. Yeah. So right now, what this is saying is that the United States, for MBA and master's level jobs for post-grad business students, the bulk of them are in the US, followed by India, Brazil, the United Arab Emirates, and then there's Canada. Canada does come in there at number five, and then you can see the usual countries. China is usually up there. Mexico is usually up there. Saudi Arabia is at number 11, and Saudi Arabia has been climbing up the charts. They're in need of expatriate talent, much like the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, and Abu Dhabi, particularly hotspots of employment. So Saudi Arabia has been rising. You'll notice the United Kingdom is at 18, and so there is job growth in the United Kingdom, but it's not as great as it is in the United States or the United Arab Emirates, for that matter. I do want to point out that Canada does rank number five on MBA job growth as per this data from Top MBA. However, if we look at a different ranking, I'd like to point out that Canada is actually number one in the Men's World Ice Hockey Championships, and has been for quite some time. Coincidentally, the US is number five and the UAE is 44, just for the record. Let's look at the class of 2015. So currently, we are collecting employment data for our graduates who have left us in August. However, we do have the preliminary data, and I looked at the Canadian students in particular. And so if we look at Canadian students, the early results indicate that 51% of our Canadian graduates have found employment, are concentrated in three markets: the United States, the United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom. Interesting, isn't that? I mean, what's common about these three countries here? The word united. And I must say it again, but we are nice people in Canada, and we like all things united. However, interestingly enough, in the order, and this order matches the order of the chart I showed you before. The bulk of our students who are Canadian have found employment in the U.S., followed by the United Arab Emirates, and then the United Kingdom. So it's following the rank in the way of supply of jobs targeted to post-grad business majors. So let's isolate the United States of America for a second. When we're thinking about working in the United States, there's obvious advantages for Canadians. Earning the U.S. dollar right now is a clear advantage. Culturally, the U.S. and Canada are quite similar. And there are a variety of visa types that are available, and one in particular that is made available for Canadians more so than any other nationality. So the visa types, if we want to look at the United States of America, there is OPT. So for those of you who are going to consider starting on a U.S. campus, Boston or San Francisco, you do have access to OPT, which allows you to stay in the country for 1 year and work for an employer, somebody who is willing to hire you. And again, this is a great option if you're wanting to get your start in the United States. Outside of that, there are other options. There is the TN visa, which is North American Free Trade Agreement visa that is available to Canadians and Mexicans, but For Canadians, depending on the type of occupation you wish to pursue, you may be able to take advantage of the TN visa, which is um, not as difficult to file for as something like the H-1B. So this is one of those visa types that we encourage our Canadian students to try to take advantage of. And again, your career advisor on campus is knowledgeable about the ins and outs of these visa types and who they're best suited for. So you're not in the dark when it comes time to decide how to position yourself. Um, L1 and L2 visas as well. We do have some students who take advantage of the L1 and L2 visa, and these are visas that are meant for people who are going to transfer with their company. So, for example, if you work with, let's say, Lululemon over there in Toronto, and you want to transfer with Lululemon, and they're willing to transfer you to the United States, one of the easiest things for them to do is to transfer you on an L1 or an L2 visa, which is intercompany transfer. Um, Before joining Hult, I worked with Walmart for about 7.5 years, and we used to do this all the time with Walmart Canada and Walmart US. We would transfer people to the US to work in various states under the L1 and L2 option. It's a fairly easy visa to petition for as an employer, and it's not as costly again as the H-1B in the way of legal fees and collecting documentation and all that business. Um, and then there's the H-1B visa. So people, when they think about working in the United States, they always think about the H-1B visa. And lo and behold, there are four other visa types that I've shown you on this screen. But the H-1B visa is for specialized labor or skilled labor. Um, Interesting thing to note about the H-1B visa, it is of all the visas listed there is the most difficult one to apply for, and the reason is there is a quota, right? So every year there are about 65,000 H-1B visas distributed, and after they've distributed those H-1B visas, they cap it. Yeah. Now, what you want to know about the H-1B visa though is if you are um, one of those individuals who have the specialized labor that is more attractive to the H-1B visa type, then this might be the visa that you're going for. So things like if you are a doctor, obviously, if you're in education, a professor, the H-1B would be viable if you're into research, but predominantly it's um, the IT and engineering roles that favor the H-1B. So when you look at the companies that hold or that distribute the bulk of the H-1B visas, they're all rooted in IT or in engineering. So the big people like Microsoft, Facebook, Oracle, Google, Cisco, these are companies that own the bulk of the H-1B visas. So not a bad option if you are one of those candidates who have specialized skill or labor. It could be your visa choice. And then finally, there's the E1 and E2 visas, and these are predominantly for those who are going to start their own business in the United States of America. So if that's your plan after graduation, this is the visa type that would afford you to reside in the United States. So if this is your desired market, some words of advice here. I would encourage you to choose Boston or San Francisco as your home campus, meaning that's the campus that you start your study in September, because OPT is only granted to you if you begin your study in Boston. You can't come in on rotation from another campus and get OPT. You need to have started in the U.S. Um, and with that, again, it allows you to stay back for a year and work for an employer. So it's an attractive option if you're sure that you want to work in the U.S. after graduation. The other thing that you're going to want to do quickly is when you get to campus is work with your career advisor to craft a plan A, plan B, and your plan C. And the reasons for this is there are many events, there are many networking events that campuses hold both online and offline. I mean, we've started to see an abundance of virtual career fairs, for example, happen that employers will put on. But the sooner your career advisor knows of your employment targets, the sooner they'll be able to guide you to the appropriate resources and events and people that might be able to support you with your employment goal. The other thing then is to think about networking versus rotation. So I said that the longer somebody's student spends in a given campus, the more time they have to gain or to build their networks, to gain job leads, and to interview even for that matter. So one of the things you want to consider is if you're sure that you want to remain in the United States, you may wish to continue through modules D and E, which are our rotation modules, so that you could continue to network and attend career events, but also to hit the streets, so to say, to find your job. One thing I want to stress, I mentioned that the L1, L2 visa is an intercompany transfer. So if you are sure that you want to transfer with the company that you're working with now, so I said it could be Lululemon, it could be TD Bank for that matter, it could be Unilever, it could be whoever you're working with right now in Canada. If you want to continue working for that employer in the US after you graduate, I would encourage you to ask your employer for a leave of absence. And the reason is you want to still be on record as an employee of that organization because that will afford you to take advantage of an intercompany transfer. So if you quit your job and study, then you can't do the intercompany transfer because you're no longer an employee of that organization. However, we have had many students, not just those coming from Canada and going to the US, but also coming from Canada and going to the United Kingdom, who have asked their employer for a leave of absence and then studied at Hult for a year. And once they graduated, worked with that company, but now in another country. And that's how they got their intercompany transfer approved. So consider that if you're in love with the company you're working for and you wish to work with them after you graduate in another capacity, in another role, then I would encourage you to get or try to get a leave of absence. Okay, great. The United Arab Emirates. So I had a great time working in Dubai for a good 3 years. I can tell you that it's very safe. I think sometimes I talk to candidates, people who've never been to the United Arab Emirates, and they have this perception that it's in the Middle East and that it's not safe. It's far from that. It is actually Dubai is one of the safest, if not the safest city I've ever lived in, but ever visited for that matter. Anyhow, 83% of the population in the United Arab Emirates is expatriate, so non-national. Most of that expatriate population comes from North America, the United States and Canada, Europe, particularly the UK, and Australia. So it's very easy to get around, to adapt to the culture there. It's not as strict as people might think it is. It's a very open culture, even though it is an Islamic country. It's not as reserved as places like Saudi Arabia. I'd highly encourage you to do some research if you don't know much about the United Arab Emirates. The other key factor to consider is the United Arab Emirate dirham. The currency there is pegged to the US dollar. And in addition to that, it is tax-free. So you don't pay any taxes on your salary there. So um, obvious advantages for those who might be looking to save some money, maybe save some money for a mortgage, maybe pay off loans, but also to advance your career because it is an emerging market. One might say it has emerged, but it is still emerging. There are many surrounding areas as well where there's extreme growth. Places like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, although they're not as expat friendly as the United Arab Emirates, there are a lot of opportunities there to grow your career, I would say, quicker than in some of the more developed countries. Um, if you recall, the United Arab Emirates was also number 4 on the list of countries with um, job growth, particularly for business school graduates. From a visa perspective, one thing you want to know here is that it is extremely easy, I don't know how else to put it, to get work authorization in the United Arab Emirates. All that is required is for you to have an offer of employment from a company within the United Arab Emirates, and that employer looks after filing for your visa. And literally, as you are Canadians on this call, it should take no longer than 2 weeks for you to get that visa. There are really no barriers to one getting a work permit in the United Arab Emirates. The only barrier is if you are HIV positive, and that's it. Other than that, they do not reject work visas for expatriates. If you're looking at this as your desired market, I would encourage you to study in Dubai or expect to rotate there for both modules and stay for another month thereafter. Um, it is an Islamic country, so what happens is in the summer, um, before graduation, Ramadan will kick in, and that's a month long festivity there, so a month long observance. And so what happens is most business slows down, and it's just core business activity that takes place. So things like interviewing and holding events and recruitment events tends to slow down for about 1 month in the summer during Ramadan. And so what you want to do is you want to at least network and find your opportunity before the holiday hits or after. So what we do is we see students in Dubai who, if they've started in Dubai in September, they about half of them find their job before Ramadan, and the other half will find it in the month after graduation. So in any event, if you don't study in Dubai in September and you decide to go there in modules D, E, or after graduation, you're going to need to give yourself at least a month, to get traction on your job search, particularly gaining interviews and such. Again, work with your career advisor to look at a plan A, plan B, plan C that is particular to this region. And it's very important to target jobs which are directly related to your industry and functional experience. So this is a market that favors subject matter experts or people who have, 3, I would say 5+ years of experience, rather than somebody who is starting their career brand new. That said, we do have MIB graduates who have, never had professional working experience outside of an internship or perhaps volunteer work that do land jobs in the region. However, you'll want to know that this employment market is looking for skilled labor, skilled talent to get companies off the ground in the region, both local companies and multinational companies. If you've never been to Dubai, since you are all Canadians here on this call, I'd like to tell you that there is Tim Hortons in Dubai as well, all over the place. And I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe there are more locations, Tim Hortons locations, than there are Starbucks. And if you're into yoga, Lululemon's in Dubai as well. There's a plus for you guys. The United Kingdom. So the third country that I said that we see our Canadians gravitating towards is the United Kingdom for employment. Now this has slower job growth than other markets. It was ranked 18 on that chart. However, there is still job growth. It's just not as fast as the U.S. and the United Arab Emirates and Brazil. But in here, we've got 3 major visa types: Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 5. And within those tiers, there are kind of sub-tiers. But the idea here is the types of visas that our students typically are awarded with are the Tier 5 visa, which is the youth mobility scheme. So for those of you who are 18 to 30 years of age and have 1,800 pounds in savings, this is a visa that you might want to take advantage of. It allows you to work in the United Kingdom for up to 2 years, as long as you meet the requirements of age and have 1,800 pounds in savings to keep yourself afloat, as they say over in the United Kingdom. So there's Tier 5, there's Tier 2, which is like the L1 and L2 visa I spoke of in the US. Tier 2, there's an intercompany transfer option, which we have had a few students take advantage of in the past years. And then there's Tier 2 general visa, which is I would kind of equate it to the H-1B of the United Kingdom. This is meant for skilled labor and skilled labor that is in short supply amongst British nationals. Let's put it that way. So many of our MBAs, for example, that have specialized skill or experience, particularly 5 or more years, might apply for this type of visa. So with the United Kingdom, if this is your desired market, I would encourage you to study in London so that you could take advantage of, obviously, of the events that take place throughout the year, the career events. Working with your career advisor, again, to craft your plan A, plan B, and plan C. Again, you'll want to target jobs which are directly related to your industry and functional experience. And then there's this idea again of, do I stay in London for all 5 modules, or should I rotate out? And again, if I'm just going purely on data, the data shows that if somebody was inclined to work in the United Kingdom and stayed there, they were able to find their job quicker than those that rotated out. Again, naturally, a lot of the hiring is going to take place towards the end of the academic year when companies know students are graduating from colleges and universities. So to leave in the last 2 modules and rotate to another campus, particularly if you're looking at staying in the United Kingdom for work, might not put you in the best position. Okay, so the basis of your planning, when you meet with your career advisor at Hult, I mean, I don't want to say we have a formula for this, but we kind of do, right? We see that success looks like this. 2 things here. You're going to define your targets, and you're going to develop a multi-tier plan. So I spoke many times about plan A, plan B, and plan C. So let's take a look at what this is. And I also want to preface by saying the type of work that I'm going to show you now, or the things that I'm going to show you now, are things that you can actually do before you come to campus. Again, the more research that you do ahead of time before you come to class in September, the more informed conversation you're going to be able to have with your career advisor, who will be in a better position to fast track you, if you will, on your job search plan. So this is what it looks like when we talk about defining targets. We always look at a target as having 3 elements: location, role, and industry. So I said it earlier, but where in the world do you want to work? What industry do you want to work in? And what function, what occupation would you like to do within that industry? That's what a target is. It's 3 things. And so what we ask job seekers to do, our students to do, is to create a target map. So I've got a sample target map here, which is very simple. 6 boxes to represent 6 targets. And within each of these boxes, each of these targets, you'll see that there's a location, there is an industry, and then there's a role. So this is what we call a target map. To take this target map one step further, what you could do and what you'd want to do eventually is, within those targets, you want to start to specify actual companies that you wish to target. So companies that you wish to investigate or work for. Now, the idea here is you may have 6 targets when you start. If you are an MBA student with 10 years of experience already, or even more, chances are you may only have 2 or 3 targets. Yeah. However, if you're starting your career, you're a master's, an MIB student, you may not know exactly what you want to do, where you want to do it in. And so your targets might be 9. You might have 12 targets, and that's okay as well. The idea is, throughout the year at Hult, you're going to work with your career advisor to refine your targets. Yeah. So upon attending career events, these could be recruitment events. These could also be some of our what we call our day in the life series. So our campuses hold events whereby they bring in like brand managers at Unilever, or they'll bring in consultants from Ernst and Young, and you can meet these individuals to get an idea of what they do. What does their day to day look like? So, what does a brand manager do in a multinational company like Unilever? Because if that was one of your targets, you might want to speak to somebody who's doing that role right now to see how they like it. They might tell you things about the role that you find challenging. So, for example, I often meet candidates who say, after I graduate, I want to become a consultant. And particularly in business schools, there's a fair bit, somewhere between 35 and sometimes 50% of the students who say they'd like to pursue a career in consulting. And then they find out the long hours that consultants work sometimes. So we bring in experts from, you know, KPMG, Ernst and Young, PwC. Some campuses have brought in individuals that work at like McKinsey, for example. And then they find out through the experience of the subject matter expert who we've invited that there are times when they're working 80 hours a week, right? Which is for some people, which is just unbearable. But sometimes people don't know that. They think about consulting. They think about there's a lot of travel. You get to meet a lot of people. It's glamorous, but sometimes there is this, the things that you don't see because you're not actually working in that role, which we provide access to these individuals so you can get a better sense of what they do. So when I say narrowing these targets, there are career events that are recruitment events, and then there's things like the Day in the Life series that we put on. Networking events, meeting with your advisor, speaking with alumni mentors. So we often bring alumni back to campus to do the same thing. So they tell us, they tell students where they work, what's it like working for, the company that they work for, what's it like working in that particular job, how was it when they were a student and searching for a job and studying at the same time. What are some of the best practices that they can share? These are events that will help you narrow down these targets. And of course, we've got a number of third-party career resources that you will have access to that will allow you to gain better insights, not only into the locations which you might desire, but the functions and the industries that you've got on your target list. The other thing then is a multi-tier plan. So once you have your targets laid out, the idea is you should have a plan A, a plan B, and we sometimes say a plan C as well. And what this is this is about having contingencies. We see that the most successful job seekers are very flexible in one, identifying targets, and flexible in the way where they're going to work. And let me give you an example of this. So 2 years ago, we had a student who had oil and gas experience, studied in San Francisco, so started on the San Francisco campus, fell in love with the city. So when his target map, if I can go back to this, his target map here had San Francisco. So he was specific about the city for all 6 of his targets. He did not want to work outside of San Francisco. The problem is he wanted to continue to work in oil and gas in a fairly intensive engineering project management capacity. So I know we're all Canadians on this call, but I'm sure you all realize that San Francisco does not really have oil fields, right? That he could particularly work in. So he was better suited to find a job in Texas or North Dakota, or he could have come to Alberta, Canada, right? Let's put that out there as well. He ended up going to Texas, but he wasted a lot of time. So he graduated in August. He was still looking for that dream oil and gas job in San Francisco. Well past graduation, I believe he found his job in Texas. It was around middle of October when he, came to his senses there. But again, these are reasons why you want to, sit with your career advisor. You want to attend those events that we hold on campus. You want to meet the alumni that we bring, so that you can get a better sense of, where in the world does your next job exist. But being flexible means, sometimes I also see students fall in love with the city that they're studying in. So they go to London, they fall in love with London. They come to Boston, they fall in love with Boston. And maybe it's not the city they fell in love with. Maybe they fell in love with somebody. I don't know. But the idea is your job search should extend far beyond, the 25-mile radius of your campus location. So one of the things that our career advisors do well at, and I'm going to tell you how you can get a head start. But one of the things we do well with our students is educating our candidates, our students, on where jobs exist in the world today, and getting you to think outside of those typical cities that people want to work in. So if I think about the U.S., when we ask students at the beginning of the year, where do you want to work in the United States? They often say New York City, Boston, Chicago, um, Los Angeles, and Silicon Valley, obviously, San Francisco, and some say Miami. But the truth of the matter is, you kind of have to go where the jobs are, and the job that you're targeting may not be in one of those cities, and you might have to take your 2-year plan or your 3-year plan to say, hey, listen, if I want to end up in New York City, maybe I should be flexible and start somewhere else where I'm going to be given the opportunity to work in the role that I want to work, and then I can work my way up to transferring or moving to another job in the more desirable city of my choice. But the data again shows that students who are a bit more flexible with their targets and their plan A, their plan B, and plan C tend to find employment a lot sooner than those who are very rigid and focused on one city, one city in particular. Especially when the employment market in that city is not favorable. The good news is the good news is 98% of our Hult graduates have changed either their location, role, and or industry. So I said when we started this webinar, I asked, why are you doing this, considering doing an MBA or a master's? And I said, most people are doing this because they want to change something about themselves. They want to change their life, um, particularly as it relates to their career and everything that comes with it. And the good news is 98% of our graduates make that change. So I would encourage you while you are it's only middle of January and September is a long way to go. To start looking at other countries, other cities. Start to look at unemployment and employment for that matter. Look at which companies are operating in these cities, in these countries that you're wishing to work in, and start to develop your plan A, your plan B, your plan C. Start to develop your target map that I showed you with the 6 boxes. Because if you could do that groundwork now, when you start in September, you're going to be not one step, but at least 5 steps ahead of where unfortunately half of our students are. So the earlier you start, the earlier you're going to land your desired job. So speaking of head starts, let's talk about how to get even a better head start on your career development. All confirmed candidates to Hult International Business School, you should know this, have access to this thing called Fast Track. So Fast Track is a program offered by the Hult Career Development team, which begins in middle of February. So before you even take your seat in September, you're going to have access to a couple of career resources that are going to accelerate your job search. So Fast Track is a series of webinars. So there are going to be webinars that are held monthly that'll educate students on how to write an award-winning CV, one that we use in our Hult template, right? So a Hult, we call it a Hult CV, but it is one that we've crafted and devised through experience over the past 5 years with all of our career experts that happens to get attention of employers. So we basically educate or teach you how to do that. We also go into detail with global market insights. So we will hold webinars to look at the United Kingdom. So I showed you the United Kingdom. I showed you there was some growth there. I showed you the United States, but we haven't yet talked about specific industries and jobs that are experiencing growth, the specific cities within those countries in which you might want to target. These are things that we cover in detail during Fast Track. One of the most important elements of Fast Track is VMOC. So VMOC is a resume review platform which we offer to confirmed candidates, whereby you can upload once you write your resume using our template, you can upload it to this platform, and it's going to compare your resume to thousands of business school graduates. So essentially, what it does is it compares your resume and it gives it a rank. And so now you can see how competitive your resume is against other business school graduates. Um, but the rank is fine. It's always great to see how well you rank. So are you ranked in the 20th percentile or the 90th percentile? But it goes above and beyond that, and it provides line by line feedback on your resume, essentially allowing you to understand how to take it from good to great. It's a platform that we put into use this past year with our students. The feedback is amazing, and it really does help um, take a standard CV and make it great. I mean, I didn't put it that way. Um, and it allows you to upload your CV up to 10 times and get feedback along the way. Once your CV is done, and you think about this, once you have your CV done, your advisor, your career advisor, would have access to it. So again, you're thinking before you even take your seat in September, your career advisor, the person that is going to be your career counselor, if you will, is going to have access to your completed CV, is going to know what your story is, and if you have your plan A, plan B, plan C done, by that time they'll also have that information at hand. And the sooner they help you out or start to help you out, the sooner you'll be able to find your desired job. Last element of Fast Track then is the monthly live question and answer webinars that we'll hold with our career development team. So along the way, as you're writing your resume or as you're doing your research about some of those employment markets that you wish to pursue, or if you have questions about, say, some of the visas that we talked about, you can join the monthly live Q&A webinars and field your question to any one of our subject matter experts who will be there to gladly respond. The whole purpose of Fast Track is to do just that. It's to fast track your job search. I can tell you this: we've now run Fast Track for 2 years, two summers now, and I can tell you the students who participate in Fast Track fully, meaning attend all the webinars and submit their resume for review to VMOC. If we look at the employment survey, they are the first to report having found a job. So again, numbers don't lie there. The sooner you start your job search, the sooner you get your job. That's how it works. Okay, I've done a lot of talking there, and so we now have some time to go over some questions that you may have. So again, if you have any questions, go ahead and use the chat box found in the control panel of GoToWebinar, and I shall read them out. Okay. We've got a few questions. Juan is asking, do we offer an online MBA? No, we don't offer an online MBA at this time. Your choices to do the MBA is our 1-year MBA program, Juan. The benefit of that program, by the way, Juan, is you're only out of the employment marketplace for 1 year versus a 2-year program, which would encourage you or make you step aside from work for 2 years at least. So no online degree just yet. Fernando's got a question about visa options in the U.S. When you apply for the TN process, what are the requirements for wife and kids? Fernando, you could bring your wife and kids, however, they are unable to work. So your wife, if she works and would like to continue working, she would not be able to do that under your TN visa. John has a question similar, I believe. He has a passport in the UK and is a dual citizen. Do you know if I need a social insurance number in the UK to work? John, as a dual citizen, you would need a social insurance number to work in the UK. However, because you are a dual citizen and a passport holder of the United Kingdom, that's not going to be difficult for you to get. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, there's a question about career changers. How realistic is it to make a career change? Do students do this? I'm assuming that you're talking about you have industry or functional expertise in one facet, and you're looking to do something completely different. Again, that is partially the reason why people go back to school and do something like an MBA, which is a general business degree, or perhaps they, are going to do a master's program because they want to learn more about, say, marketing and become a specialist or pursue a job in the marketing realm. We do have students who successfully complete a career change. Um, your career advisor will take you through how that works and what it looks like for you. Everybody's journey is going to be different when they make a career change. But quickly, if I go back to earlier what I said about, there are three elements when we talk about a target. There's location, industry, and function. If you're looking to make a complete career change, so looking to work in a different industry and to work in a different function than you currently work in, one of the things that you might want to consider is not changing your location, right? So of those three variables, we find that it becomes harder, not impossible, but it becomes harder to change all three variables at one time. It becomes easier to change two variables at one time. And then, of course, it is the easiest to change one of those variables. So like maybe changing your function or changing your industry or changing the geography. And it's the reason why I mentioned that if you're looking to work in the United Arab Emirates, for example, that in itself, if you're going from Canada to Dubai, for example, you're looking at changing your geography, your location. And if you're going to get the attention of an employer, you're better suited um, to market or to continue along the lines of the industry and the functional experience that you currently have. But with regards to career changes, because they are very different depending on what your background is and what your target is, that is something that you want to give all details to your career advisor so that they can help you appropriately map out a plan A, plan B, and plan C. Okay, take a look at what we have here. Jennifer is asking, how many students would a career advisor take on? Um, in in North America, if we look at not just business schools but universities and colleges, the average number of students a career advisor has is roughly about 130. With our campus locations, we're looking at one advisor to every 100 students. With that said, our career advisors, they don't moonlight, so they're full-time career advisors. So all of their time is spent meeting students, and they're on campus 5 days a week. They're not part-time staff. So what that means is they have a number of slots per week that are available to meet with students one-on-one, and we don't have any student. Let me put it this way: we don't have any student that is waiting longer than 3 days to meet their career advisor. So their schedule is online. You can book a meeting with them at any time. You can book as many meetings as you wish with your advisor, but there certainly isn't any student that we leave untouched, if I can say that. If you're looking for a job, your career advisor is going to support you 100%. That said, as well, you are all given a dedicated career advisor, so it's almost like a doctor-patient relationship. The benefit of that is, you're going to be on any given campus between 8 to 12 months. So if one singular person knows your story, knows your background, knows what your ambitions are, they're going to be better suited to help you than if you go to 5 or 6 different individuals. Um, the other thing is you will meet your career advisor one to one. in September or by middle of October for we call it a mandatory one-to-one, but the idea is it's for them to get to know who you are and get to see kind of where you are now and where you want to be and what help do you need from them in the school. So good question, but there certainly will not be any issues with any of you meeting your allocated career advisor. Okay, Kevin. Kevin is asking what search engines abroad outside North America are most popular to find jobs. Um, there are a lot of search engines, Kevin. I can tell you, like in Indeed.com, SimplyHired.com. Like these are in the United Kingdom popular search engines. Much like Monster.com or Workopolis. I believe Workopolis doesn't exist over there in Canada anymore, but as Monster.com is to the U.S. Um, the thing I would say though is those mass search engines are great in determining who's hiring. So because you get to see, for example, if you type in accounting, you get to see how many accounting jobs are posted, or you get to see who's hiring accountants. However, they're not your best place to go to if you're looking to find a job. The hit rate on those job boards is about 20%. That was like last year industry number. It's probably lower this year as LinkedIn has taken more prevalence. But you have to understand that for every one job that gets posted to a mass job board like Monster.com or Simply Hired, you're looking at, especially if it's a multinational company, 2,000 resumes that might hit the desk. I can tell you for a fact, working at Walmart, when we posted a job for roles at the head office, and this is just in Canada, for that matter, I'm not talking about Walmart US. We would see about 1,000 applicants like within a week, and there isn't anybody these days that's going to go through 1,000 applications, even with the support of electronic applicant tracking systems. Nobody's really going to do that these days. So I wouldn't encourage heavy use of the job boards, those search engines, Kevin. I think you should use them though to look at trends and to see who's hiring and what's the demand like for certain occupations. The best bet is to find an alternate route to that particular company and that job, and that's through things like LinkedIn. That's through things like networking. That's through things like meeting alumni, networking with alumni, but also some of those career events that happen both on campus and off campus, for that matter. Okay, Juan is asking how long can we live and work in the U.S. with a working visa? So Juan, that all depends on the type of visa that you carry. The H-1B can go up to 6 years. The TN visa is renewable every year. OPT allows you to stay there for 1 year. The L1 and L2 similarly 1 to 3 years, and that is also renewable. So it all depends on the type of visa that you're carrying. That would dictate how long you could reside. Okay, Jennifer's asking, once your students graduate from one of your schools, is it possible to stay and work where they graduated? Will they also be able to work somewhere else? Yes, Jennifer. So the interesting thing about our career stats once we finish collating the data is, we are seeing that, and we've always seen students do tend to stay in their campus locations and find employment. So if they studied in London, many of them will stay there. So I told you about 51% of our Canadians thus far have stayed in either the US, the UK, or the United Arab Emirates. Those students particularly are those that started on those campuses or rotated there. Um, Dubai in particular, again, because of the ease of obtaining a work visa, we see the highest percentage of students who study in Dubai that stay in Dubai. So more students who study in Dubai stay there proportionately than those who study in the U.S. and stay in the U.S. Some of them elect to go elsewhere. So there are some students who actually found a job in London but started their study in Boston or San Francisco. So they're not necessarily staying in the U.S. They are choosing another location. Um, but most of it is centered around where our campuses are located or surrounding countries. Latin America is another huge market that we see students going to. So not just Canadians. If I think about all of the nationalities now together, Latin America is another market that we see students gravitating towards. And then if within Europe, if it's not the United Kingdom, places like France have we've got many students who go over to France, Germany. If you are an IT professional and you don't want to work in, say, Silicon Valley in San Francisco, Germany is in massive need right now for IT professionals, particularly those that have an international education, particularly those who have some sort of management degree behind them as well. So you should, if you're considering the United Kingdom, don't just consider the United Kingdom. Like I was saying, think about countries that are surrounding it that may actually have more jobs in volume for the industry or the function that you wish to work in. Okay. There is a question, Darren, I'm going to defer to you on. There is a question about scholarships or bursaries for Canadians. Perhaps you'd like to comment on how scholarships work for candidates.
Yes, I'd be happy to. So we do have scholarships which are available to all of our applicants, regardless of nationality or residency. However, beyond that, we do have current scholarships, a grant actually, which we are offering to Canadian applicants. And this is given the current exchange rates. We know that they are not in your favor. So with that in mind, I would encourage you to speak to your director of enrollment, whoever you've been working with on your application. If you haven't gotten started on one just yet, feel free to reach out to our school here so that we can connect you with the right person to speak with. But we do have certain opportunities that are just for our Canadian applicants, and keeping in mind that exchange rates are not very good right now.
Okay, great. Thank you, Darren. Final question then, Darren, is the cost. Juan is asking about the cost for the MBA program. What are we looking at?
Sure. So the total cost for the MBA in US dollars is $69,800. So if you factor in the possibility to receive scholarship and then grants, there is the opportunity to greatly reduce that tuition. And as we do work with rolling admissions, we have various deadlines, but it's always better to apply earlier rather than later, just so that you can take advantage of the different funding that we have available before our campuses begin to fill up.
Okay, great. Thank you, Darren. Okay, so with that said, we've actually run a bit over time, but we had a lot of great questions here from the group. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. I wish you all good luck in making your choice. I'm hoping that you're making a choice to come to Boston because I am situated here. So if you do come to Boston, we'll certainly have an opportunity to meet each other in person. And I also wish you good luck on planning and deciding where it is you'd like to work and what it is you'd like to do after you graduate. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.